Are you looking for a job that can lead to a career opportunity? MCC and OPS have teamed up to provide education training and job opportunities. We're looking for people that want to learn and work at the same time. We have open enrollment for training in the field of construction and job placement. For more information, contact us at 317-991-3150 or email info@mccindiana.org. Again, that phone number is 317-991-3150 or email info@mccindiana.org.
Black people need to own our own businesses, which will provide an economic base. Teach our youth to become self-sufficient. Learn how to maximize our political affiliations and fight for criminal justice reform. You just tuned in to Black Power Presents with your host, Antonio Lipscomb. Come on, let's talk.
All right, Facebook family and friends, and also my YouTube watchers and listeners. I am your host, Antonio Lipscomb. Black Power Presents. Now listen, I come on every week and I need everyone's support. Everybody who watches me on Facebook, do me a favor. I only had 12 viewers on YouTube. That was the max of I've ever received on YouTube. So be so kind to just go on YouTube and watch us. As Black Power Presents. We come on every week and we just need your support. We want you to follow us on YouTube, like us on YouTube, give us some love, show us some love, when it comes to YouTube, because at the end of the day, we can't do this without you. We need your help. And we need your support. So please go on. And I'm trying to get my screen right here. Go on the YouTube channel and watch us as we have dynamic shows each week. And so without further ado, I'm going to let you guys know that every week on the backdrop of our show, we do have a radio listening audience that we include inside the broadcast. So we're going to be on 1310, 92.7, and we're going to be receiving calls. So if you want to be a part of the show and you want to call in, you just simply dial 317-239-1310, 317-239-1310. And of course, we will get the producer that will put you through on the show. We got some exciting guests. I got Nico, which is a family friend of ours, as well as my son Antoine, which is a military veteran, is going to be on the show. And we're just going to be talking about a variety of different topics. Also, I want you to know next week we will have the local chapter of the NAACP president on. Crystal is going to come and be with us next week. So if you got some questions about the NAACP locally, you can simply ask her at that time. Listen, Facebook, we're going to go ahead and get it cracking. I got a little bit of a video I want to share with you guys about voting. So I'm going to share this video real quick, and then we'll be preparing ourselves to come on the show. So I'm going to get this little YouTube video up. And we're going to talk about this voting situation here.
Now you can play through the eyes of the child in an all-new version of Monopoly. The child thinks spaces, hideouts, and common houses, and cards and tokens featuring your favorite character keep the force strong. Bring home Monopoly, Star Wars The Child Edition.
Records are being set across this country with early voting in this pandemic, and so many Americans on both sides who want to make sure their vote counts this year. Tonight, this number, more than 90 million Americans have requested mail-in ballots, and only about half of them have sent them back in. And so authorities in several states tonight with a warning to fill them out and get them in the mail immediately. And our chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl, tonight explaining why.
If you're going to vote by mail, it's time to get your ballot in the mailbox right now.
Please, if you haven't returned it, do it this week. Now's the time.
Regardless of what state you're in, get your ballots in by your state's deadline.
Driven in part by concerns over the pandemic, a record high 90 million voters have requested mail-in ballots nationwide. But so far, only about half have returned them. In all 50 states, those mail-in votes must be sent by Election Day. But in 28 states, they must also arrive by the time polls close. Late yesterday, the Supreme Court rejected an effort to extend the deadline in Wisconsin. It would have allowed another 6 days for those ballots to arrive in the mail and still be counted. 22 states, ballots are counted if they arrive in the days after the election, as long as they are postmarked by Election Day. There's nothing new about voting by mail. President Trump continues to attempt to sow doubt about it, tweeting without evidence, big problems and discrepancies with mail-in ballots. Must have final total on November 3rd. Twitter put a warning on that message, saying it is
Hey, this is Antonio.
All right. Hey, give me 1 second. I'm wrapping them up.
Okay.
Again, in 22 states, ballots are counted even if they arrive days after the election, as long as they're postmarked on time. Another factor to watch, when the votes are actually counted. It may take a while. 34 states will not even begin to count those millions of mail-in votes until Election Day. One of those is Texas, where polls show Biden and Trump in a dead heat. Both candidates are recording records. Largest non-white voting bloc in the country. Ronaldo Ramirez, a rancher born and raised in Texas, told our John Keane, "I voted early before the president."
Right here on TNT. I want y'all to go out and we got to
Joe Biden will maintain a big lead among Latino voters. Sima Hernandez, the first family voter in the U.S.
There's too much at stake. This country is in office with this dangerous rhetoric and this dangerous Verizon 5G is here.
So we're just highlighting the importance of voting. So we definitely want to ask everyone, if you can, get out and vote. We're going to be talking about this voting situation as well, because, you know, one thing it is, we all want to practice voting, but we got some good conversations that's going to come on about voting. I actually wanted to share something with you as well. My dear pastor here is recovering from COVID, and I wanted to share with you a picture of him doing his absentee ballot as he recovers from COVID. So I ask that you all just continue to keep Dr. Lionel T. Rush in your prayers. I think you guys can see the video of him. Just please keep him in your prayers. All right. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. All right, well, we're about to get your commercials played, and then you'll be going on to 6:05, all right?
All right, be going on to 6:05. Sounds good.
Say it again for me.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, Pastor Thornton asked how Lionel is.
He's doing better. He's getting stronger. Tell him to call me one day. But I'm actually on Facebook right now and YouTube. So listen, if you want to be a part of this show, just simply go on to YouTube. Follow us on YouTube, Black Power Presents, as well as you can also follow us on Facebook Live. Well, we're getting ready to get on the air here, and I wanted to bring my guest. I don't see my guest anymore, but I do see my son Antoine here. Antoine, are you visible now? Can we see you? Need you to come on camera. There you are, son. Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
All right, man. Welcome to Black Power Presents. I did have another guest that's here, and I'm gonna try to see if she could get back on here. But how you doing, man? Where let them know where you at, man.
I'm in New Mexico. I'll be in Arizona soon, but I've been in Mexico for about 4 years now. That's where I've been at.
Okay, let them know why you was over in Mexico, man.
So I did a bid with the military.
Okay, I can see.
I did a bid with the military. After I got out, I got a government job, and I've just been working on different nuclear bases, doing things like that. Doing some security work, alarm monitoring, things like that. One thing right now I'm trying to do is fan out my region of talents and try to get different contracts and things like that. So that's one thing I've been working on.
Okay, we're gonna be talking about all of that. Hey, Nico, welcome to Black Power Presents. I'm so glad you're part of the show. I'm going to try to see if I can get Dr. Dorothy Heron onto the show as well. She says she wants to come on. So let me send her an invite as we're waiting to come on the radio. Once I come on the radio, then you'll be able to have access to for people to call in, and we're just going to have a wonderful conversation. About 30 seconds?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm trying to.
And hey, you sound kind of far. Can you still be a little bit more?
Absolutely. I'll do that right now. Okay, doing a sound check there. Does it sound better now?
Yes, a lot better.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep. There we go. 7 seconds left in this commercial.
All right, getting ready to come on the air. Okay.
I gotta play the music.
Hey, Reverend, can you go let Dorothy in? Okay, thank you. So please be patient with us. This is the back end of our show as we get ready to prepare ourselves to go on the air.
There we go.
Okay. All right, radio listening audience, is yours truly, Antonio Lipscomb, Black Power Presents. We're back again with another wonderful show. I have two wonderful guests and another guest that's going to be coming with us shortly. I have my own son, my young son, Antoine Lipscomb, and also Nico, which is a close friend of ours. Glassford is on with us, and we're going to have an exciting show today. We're just going to be talking about the election, and we're just going to have a good conversation. And one thing I wanted to bring onto the show was a female voice. So I got actually two female voices that's going to be with us today, and I have a youth that's going to be with us today. We're going to be talking about voting and a number of different topics. As you all seen, we did do a clip on voting, and of course, everyone is excited about this opportunity, just the opportunity to be in America and have a chance to be able to have a voice and make a decision. I think it's pretty powerful. So if you want to be a part of this broadcast, simply call in. We want our producer to really watch because we want our callers to get through. So we want you to call in and make sure your voice is heard. Hopefully everybody is able to hear us. Okay, and we're going to move forward. Listen, again, thank you so much, Antoine Lipscomb. You want to share again what you were saying about where you are and what led you to be over in New Mexico?
So New Mexico is a good place for a person to come and basically just build on a career and branch off and, go somewhere else and build in a sense. They have a lot of different government agencies out here that offer good contracts and offer good employment. There's a nice job career field out here. It's not very hard to find a job as long as you are a good employee. So that's why I've stayed in New Mexico for so long, because they have a pretty good economy out here, I would say, for the state.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And Nico, great to see you again. And you doing all right? How you doing today?
I'm doing better. I am. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you was under the weather for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'm still kind of making my way through, but nevertheless, she prevailed. So I'm here, ready to talk, learn.
You gonna pull up the chair? Well, that's good. That's good. I have Dr. Dorothy Heron. Dr. Dorothy Heron, you could have came on your phone. You didn't have to come here, but it's good to see you. You can just pull up a chair, and you're gonna be right with us. So we're gonna talk about this thing. Hey, again, radio listening audience, if you want to be a part of this broadcast, you can just simply go and call in. Just call in. The number is 317-239-1310. And I have lovely Dr. Dorothy Heron, who has joined us. And Doctor, we're going to be talking about voting. Of course, I got two of the finest women I can think of here in Indianapolis to join on in this conversation. And obviously, this is the eve of voting, and people are preparing themselves for tomorrow, right? Or is it on the third Tuesday? Yeah. Tuesday to get out and vote. And so we got one more day before the actual voting day is out. And I believe early voting is still open.
Yes.
So people can still participate in the voting process. Now, I want to talk to you guys about this voting opportunity. What do you think about the climate now and the importance of voting? I'm going to ask you, Nico, what do you think about the importance of voting right now? How important is it to you?
I think it's important for numerous reasons. What I see is kind of a change in the guard. And what I mean by that is people your son's age that's on are willing to take a leadership position, during this climate, seeing what has happened in this country as late as this year with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so on and so forth. So that's galvanized our young African-American men and women to get out and vote. Previously, it seemed like it has been a little bit of a tug of war to kind of get them to see the importance of voting. But what I've seen is a lot of enthusiasm with that particular age group to do something. And it starts with the vote. That's the voice. And then moving forward, we'll talk about where do we go from there after the vote.
Right. And like with our broadcast, we make sure that we don't endorse any particular candidate. Matter of fact, we can't.
Correct.
But let me say this. One of our favorite callers is on the line, Larry. He's a faithful caller, and we want him to have a few words, and then we'll move from there. Go ahead, Larry.
I just rebuked the devil, because I heard Reverend Benjamin. Now, I thought he was all right, but when he comes on supporting somebody that believes in pro-birth abortion and gay marriage, and he's supposed to be a pastor, our churches have really hit the apostate, the low state of disbelief in the all religion that have gotten them through. When they support something like that, they're turning their back on God. And when they do that, he's going to turn his back on them when they need it. They know that this country can't be shut down for any COVID vaccine, but they're worshiping COVID. They have to worship it. Why, Antonio? Because they're 501c3. They can't open their mouth or their daycares will be closed down. So I think these pastors, they really overwhelm me. Close to the polls for abortion and same-sex marriage. It's really bad. I mean, you have to follow the rules when you're a Christian, Antonio.
Yes, sir.
You don't go in for murder babies. You just don't do that, but they're doing it, and they're proselytizing it anyway, and they're ruining our young kids. They're ruining our young children. They're teaching them a narrative where they believe that somebody like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor getting killed is the issue to be behind. When America is about going to work, Antonio, it's not about going out to shoot protesters, a bad effort, or somebody that got involved with the law and thought they could fuck the law and got killed. What do you expect to happen to you?
Well, thanks again, Larry, for your call. And you really kind of set the tone for the full conversation of what we're going to talk about. Me and Nico's been having this conversation all throughout the week. We're concerned about the stand of the church. And Larry kind of led us into this conversation. And of course, we want to talk about it because we are screaming at, as ministers to, have souls go to the poll, right? Go to the poll and vote. But what are we standing for as a body of believers? How are we standing together to address some of the concerns and ills and wills of what's going on here in our community? How are faith leaders standing up to make a difference when it comes to what we believe in? And somebody might say, oh, well, there's a difference between church and state. But there's no difference between right and wrong. There's no difference between righteousness and wickedness. And if you want our nation to prosper, and we want the presence of God to be with us, we have to have accountability, a sense of accountability when it comes to God's statutes, God's laws, and what God wants. Nico, isn't it funny how when we have these natural disasters, everybody want to call on God. They expect the church to open its doors and whatnot to help people in need. But then when it's time for the nation to stand up and say it's under God whom we trust in, then of course they tend to want to do the opposite. So my question to you is, and I'm gonna ask my son too, how do we address this faith-based community and us being able to come together? And I got Pastor Jackson, he's on hold, and I want him to address this as well. But I'm gonna hear from, matter of fact, let me hear from Antoine since I already talked with Nico. Antoine, what do you think about that?
So one thing, especially from being in a professional environment, that I will address first is that church and state are separated, but the aspects of church and state are synonymous due to your living style and your life choices. So it's a very important conversation to talk about. Specifically in my generation, I think that specifically with religion and abiding by certain standards and abiding by certain rules and having a routine that gets you through the struggles that we face as everyday Americans is a good thing for us to have. But to categorize and group people together, I think one thing we need to do is stay focused on tasks that we need to accomplish as a community first. We need to be a community-based, and together, we need to come together and find the goals. I remember the lady that was on before, she said that voting was the first thing. I think I'm right. Well, she was right with saying that voting is definitely the first thing we need to figure out so our community can be safe, And then after our community is safe, then the church will come in and help the community. But first we need to make sure that we're taking care of it in that aspect by ourselves.
Well, I agree with that. Nico, let me ask you this, and then I'm going to hear from Pastor Jackson. When Larry spoke of this sense of morality, like abortion, I think he brought that up. And then he probably would bring in racial profiling and discrimination and
Mm-hmm.
And you know, these problems that America have in the faith-based groups. I mean, even when it comes to healthcare, you know, making sure people have proper coverage through this COVID virus and whatnot. How is the church working collaboratively together that can address these issues? I know you also a preacher, so what do you think about this? You know, the position of the church and where the church is today.
I think the church has taken a if I can say it, I think the church is behind the scenes right now. I don't see us as leading change. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about the brick and mortar, but I'm talking about the body of Christ. I don't see the body of Christ being at the forefront of anything right now. With the desensitization of murders of Black men, Black women, our health care with the highest in every category of sickness, high blood pressure, cancer. You know, I don't think the church has really took a position. You know, we're still talking about abortion. We're still talking about single women or not married having children. So where is the church? Where's the church? I think I agree with Larry. It's apostate right now. You know, we don't have, you know, when we had the rioting back this spring and you know, the men of God, it was a shame you didn't see a lot of men of God out there marching with these young people, you know, from some of the larger churches in the community, you know, but we want memberships and we want tithes. But what are you doing with that?
Well, let me jump in there right quick because we do have a pastor that's with us, that's holding. Pastor Robert Jackson, you want to go ahead and give your comments? Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. We can barely hear you. We can barely hear you. It's a little better. Go ahead. Kind of speak loud into your phone, please.
Okay.
It's a little better. Go ahead.
Is that the Bible says open up thy mouth, just like and plead the call of the poor. And that's what the preachers are to be. We ought to be enough for justice that is in our city and in our country. We have to take a stand. But I believe the problem is that we are ready to understand that there's competition going on. Got a lot of people in the leadership role instead of us working together as a team to accomplish our objectives. And so we do that because we still have to be the bad guy. We still have to give water to those things. Those who are critics, we have to consider them. Those who don't have any clothes.
All right. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor Jackson, for your comments. What Pastor Jackson was saying was that there's still a need for the church to stand up and take a position. I have another caller, and after this caller, I'm going to talk to Dr. Dorothy Herring because she's also a minister. And we're going to hear from her in relations to the church and the position of the church. Go ahead, Troy. Good. I can hear you a lot clearer. We hardly couldn't hear Reverend, but go ahead.
Yeah. We got a lot of people calling themselves pastors and have not been ordained by God. I don't see really nobody in that town speaking for God. Everybody's speaking their own words. We got a lot of jellybacks. Governors. Well,
say it again.
People thinking they pastors and they not. I don't hear nobody. Almost Larry, but Larry's not ordained by God. speaking his own words. And that's a lot of people out here that think they've been called from God and not speaking his word. Everybody's talking about God, but they words that coming from their mouth is contrary to the word. So I don't hear nobody in that town speaking for God. I hear a lot of agents that got shows and preachers are speaking for government in that town. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir, for your call. We really appreciate that.
Well, and Antonio, can I
Nico, hold on for a second, because I asked Dr. Dorothy Heron. She hasn't said anything. So, Dr. Dorothy Heron, what do you think about what the caller just said?
I think, well, first of all, I would like to say I bring greetings from the Holy Spirit.
Man.
I am ordained. I am speaking the word of God. In my Sunday school lesson this morning, it was about one man, Noah, after he had been in the flood, the disaster that he had went through for over a year in the ark. When he stepped on dry ground, the first thing he wanted to do, he wanted to build an altar and worship, even though he had went through quite a bit. And so that was something that touched God's heart. Noah was one man. I am one woman. I love God. And I can't confess love for God if I can't confess love for Antonio and the people I see every day. You know, we talk about the church. The church is an individual thing. You do your part. You know, don't look around and say, well, the church, the pastors, they didn't do that. What are you going to do? Who are you going to open your house to? Who are you? And what are you going to do? It's individual. It's a personal relationship. You know, I can miss my blessings trying to figure out what he's not doing, what Antonio's not doing, what Pastor Jackson's not doing. You do what God has called you to do.
And that's a great point. And Nico, I know you want to probably comment on that. And one thing I'm going to say before we ask you, ask something up, because I know you're so full of knowledge. But one thing I do want to point out, yes, there's an individualistic response from your personal relationship to God. That's important that we do that. And I think that's where we start. However, there is an obligation from a corporate position, because the church is a corporate body. And oftentimes we get things confused when we think of individualistic achievements and whatnot. Now, of course, we're supposed to serve God no matter what. But in Ephesians, I believe it's Ephesians 5,
fifth chapter.
Yeah, the 5th chapter. It talks about, he gave some apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers for the perfecting of the saints in the work of the ministry. There is a hierarchy or leadership that the church has and is responsible for setting the tone as it relates to Christianity and how we are to practice Christianity. And the problem I think we're having is the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. There's a problem with the vision of the church not being plain. If there's a problem with homicides, if the city in Indianapolis which is the 12th largest city in America, has a problem, we make up 23%. I'm talking about Black people make up 23% of the population, yet we're breaking records with homicides. Then it seems to me that the church has an obligation and a responsibility to deal with the homicides. And it's not that we're looking for the politicians to lead the effort. We're looking for the church to lead the effort. Not only that, this is Black Power Presents, so I'm talking to Black folks, hopefully, and whoever else is listening. But when you look in Indianapolis, 61% of people in Indianapolis are Black, homeless are Black.
That's
right. Now, how can we say we love God and we can't develop a strategic, economic, political strategy to help Black folks have housing? It's cold outside. and you know, no disrespect to you, doctor. I know you're a renowned woman, and you do all you can. But if we connect, you know, like the Bible say, one can chase 1,000, but how many two can chase?
10,000.
And then we keep multiplying and keep growing and keep growing. We want to all connect. Make sure you're right with God and do what you're supposed to do individually, but make sure that individual effort is connected with the greater vision of the mission of what God has put the body together to do. You know, my finger can't run off and leave my hand.
Hallelujah.
You know, my eye ain't no good if it ain't connected to my head. So we are a body. We are collected, and we can do way more together than we can do isolated from one another. And we have an obligation. I want you to pick this up, Nico, because I feel in my spirit, and I need to speak to the saints of God, and I need to speak to everybody who's listening and watching. Shame on you if you are just shucking and jiving and speaking in tongues and running around the church. And when you get done, you know it, people don't have a health care plan. Shame on you. If you know that people are in poverty and dire need and need food, and you talking about, I'm going to pray for you. And you know people are sick and dying and need support, and you won't lend a helping hand. Shame on you if you're saying that you of God and you will not serve the people of God. Shame on you. And that's the same on the leaders of the church. If the leaders are not setting a pattern on how we are supposed to act, believe, and move, then they are the ones that we indict first. Not the mayor, not the senators, not the Congress, not the local representatives, because they're only servants that work for us. Now we say we the head. How are you the head and you following after the politician? And you're trying to get in the good graces of the politician. You are not the head if you're if anything else is in front of you, you are not the head. And so, Nico, go ahead and pick that up.
Well, I wanted to say, you know, throughout history, spiritual men have galvanized change. You take Martin Luther King, however your feelings are about him. You take Malcolm X, who was Muslim, however you feel about him. Dalai Lama, however you feel about him. Mother Teresa, however you feel about her. She was among the poor and needy, but it took the God in these people to galvanize change. Somebody has to step outside of the four walls and do the work. And what I mean by that is the pulpit is not the work. The work is outside of the pulpit. We have gotten so Hollywood in the church. It's about being seen. And you're making merchandise out of God's people. I was reading somewhere that over $400 million was paid to tithes in the Black church. That's awful. And when COVID hit, folk needed toilet paper. Antonio, not food, a side of food. People needed bleach. People needed water.
Wow.
We're not talking about voting at that point. We're talking about, when you talk about Maslow's hierarchy, if I'm speaking that correctly, but the hierarchy of the triangle that talks about if the basic needs of people aren't met, then nothing else matters.
Right.
You can't talk to somebody about God that's hungry. They got hungry kids.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So let me
go ahead.
Let me let this young bright star here, my son, military veteran, respond as well to what you're saying. I mean, from your generation, son, How do you think your generation kind of see the church in relations to voting and being involved in the community? Let me take you off mute here. Go ahead, I got you. Go ahead.
Okay, so firstly, I want to address. I'll go back in history how she did, and in history, one thing about the Black people as a community and as brothers and as family is that we have never been able to support each other. We've never been able to come together. We've never been able to see eye to eye to the point that we can accomplish whatever we're trying to accomplish. You know, we're going through the same thing in my generation that you guys went through. But my generation is learning. We are learning that we need to come together. We're learning that we need to have talks with people so that we can all be on the same page. And I think that's one thing with the church that needs to happen. There needs to be talks where people come together, and instead of seeing that, oh, this guy's a pastor or this guy's this guy's that, no. The obligation of the church is to help the community. The obligation of the church is to serve the community. But if you can't serve your brother, if you can't serve the person that's right next to you in leadership, if you can't take your ego and suppress it for the betterment of the people that you're trying to serve, then where are we going to be at?
My son, let me share this with you real quick, because you're a military man, right? You've been to the military. You understand rank, yes, right? And the higher the rank, the more the influence, right? So if you got a commander in your unit that's setting a culture of equality and setting a culture of a high level of morality, then don't you think that that's going to spill down to the lower ranks?
So that's exactly how the military works.
Let me interrupt you for a second. That's exactly the way the church is supposed to work.
Exactly.
Because when I spoke of the fivefold ministry, that is the executive branch of the church. And the problem is, like Nico was saying and others, is that the leadership of the church is such that we have not set the standard for the church. So it's ineffective. Just think of if you're going into battle, right? And every soldier is taking their own approach strategically on how to fight that war. Like, you got your ideal, that person next to you got their ideal, and when you say break, everybody goes with their own idea. How effective would that approach be if you're trying to win a war? It wouldn't be effective, right?
Yeah. So while I was marching, I went to a march in Albuquerque, and it correlates directly to what you're saying. I went to a march, and I'm in Albuquerque. Is a very, very big town for Native Americans. Native Americans, they represent here, and they because there's a lot of them in Albuquerque and Arizona. And the protest we were at was for George Floyd, and we were marching, and there were all different colored people out there. There were white, Hispanic, Mexican, anything, Black. Everyone showed up. And there was a Native American man. He was screaming. He was saying, "This is our land. This is our land. We want our land back. We want our land." And we're there for George Floyd, correct? So people started getting upset at him because it was just a bad time for him to speak out. And people were taking certain different actions. What happened during that moment is we talked. We didn't know each other. I haven't seen these people ever in my life. I was with my roommate, and that's it. We haven't seen these people ever. But in that moment, we talked. There was no direct leadership in that moment that had to make us come together. But at that moment, we had to make a decision to not harm him, or to just tell him to not even leave, to just totally completely ignore him. That's what we decided to do, was to totally and completely ignore them. And when we did that, we could come together and we could actually be there for George Floyd and talk about George Floyd. So that's one thing I think leaders in the church need to do. If my generation can do it, you know, why can't the leaders do it? All you have to do is talk, communicate, hash it out. If someone has animosity towards another person, all it has to do is be talked about, hash it out, and let's come together, because we trying to get things going now. We're not in an era where we're gonna let things happen again. No, we're trying to vote now. And after we vote, the plan will be whatever the plan is. But you know, we're trying to get things together, and we're trying to get together on the same basis, on the same eye, and on the same playing field.
And that's great. That's great, Antoine. I believe that's going to come through you know, leadership of those who understand how to move our country forward. We just like you just said, you know, you want everyone to come together. Of course, we do want to come together, but we want to come together with purpose. And it sounds like you had, the purpose and the mission, and it sounds like you guys had that going. So kudos to you on that. I think I got Larry Larry, we'll give you a couple more minutes, man, if you're still there. Go ahead and make a quick comment, please.
We never learned to trust each other and work together, because Martin Luther King, once we see most of people's face, we busted all that out. Segregation was the best thing that ever happened to us. We should have stayed there for another 20 years, and we would have learned how to work together. And the churches are nothing but frozen assets in our community. Big giant dollars standing empty that they done had their parishioners mortgage their homes to build. So they're going to pay for what they're doing now. Thanks, Antonio.
Thank you, Larry. So as rough as that might sound, guys, that has a lot of truth to it. Now, if I was on Mount Rushmore as a leader, and they would say, okay, Antonio, what would you do if you were if you were in America and you had a way, I don't know, a magic wand or some kind of way to make all the churches be on one accord? I think one of the first areas I would think we should tackle is education. I think every church should be open. And Dr. Dorothy Herron, you can help me explain this even better. Wasn't there a time that the church was the center focal point of education, to where they moved that pulpit out the way and they put a desk there and they put a teacher there, and every student came in and sat in that pew to make sure that they learned? And we got scientists out of that. We got doctors. We got lawyers. We got astrologers. We got people out of that setting. Now, here's a sad part. We let education go. So being that we let education go, now I guarantee you, what's that new girl? Not Nicki Minaj, but the other one, Cardi B. Now, your child would know every word of an adult lyric of a Cardi B song more than she would know who's her senator, or who her congressman is, or who her state rep is, or who her probably won't even know who the mayor is, but she will know that adult language of Cardi B. Some went wrong. So the churches, in my opinion, every church should have some level, and it shouldn't be no Sunday school. It should be Monday through Friday school, and then come to Sunday school and start it all over again. What do you think, Dr. Herron? I think we got a pastor that's waiting on us, but I want Dr. Herron to speak, and then we're going to hear from another pastor. Go right ahead.
I'm from Mississippi. Okay. And back down in Mississippi, my grandfathers and their fathers, it wasn't about the pulpit, but it was about the training place. The church was the school. Mm-hmm. And, they couldn't go to the other schools. So they created their own school. Right. God had given them what they needed to be able to teach and train their community. Right. And at that time, the communities, they stayed together. They had one cow. My grandmother said they had one cow. Everybody got milk from that one cow. Mm-hmm. If one woman or 4 women were pregnant, they took turns feeding those kids breastfeeding those kids, and would go to the field. Like I would breastfeed on Monday, and then my sister next door, she would breastfeed on Tuesday. They had to go to the field, they had to work. And on Sundays, it wasn't so much church school, it was teaching and training our community and our kids. And that's when we were better. That's when we loved each other, when we just had each other.
We had each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that's powerful. Go ahead, Pastor. I guess it's Pastor Willoughby.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Black Power Presents, sir. Look, we want to hear your comment.
I've been listening to the radio broadcast for as long as it's been on. Anyway, first time I called in. First of all, the church has a responsibility of church. We just set up on this block I built my church to will not the devil certainly get that. If you look at the story that he gave, and show what kind of where we're living here, with last late at the doorstep of a rich person. But it's multi-faceted. The issue is multi-faceted. First of all, you got a rich man who knew Abraham was, so it shows that he had some kind of religious connection. But there, we got people in banks because they got Christ and Paul, that they better than the people in the project with Christ. But when it turned out, Lazarus ended up having a real relationship with Christ, and when he died, he went to heaven, but the rich man went to hell. And I heard on the radio for Donald Trump and trying to explain to the Bible why they support Trump. They're wrong, they're lying, and so what people need to do, the lady was right, the church can do with your heart, right? We're all corporate. And so we need to stand up and preach God's word, take the button off and speak up for what is right. That's all we have to do.
Pastor, hey, Pastor, I don't mean to interrupt you, okay? But I got a dying question I need to ask you right before you get off.
Go ahead.
Now, you know, I've been a part of the church since I was 19 years old. The Lord's blessed me to see 50. I know I'm not too old, but I'm not 25. You feel me? You see what I'm saying? Now, there is a mandate for the church when Jesus made the statement, it said, when I was hungry, you didn't eat, when I was naked, when I was in prison. What I'm trying to say, Pastor, is there something that the church, I'm talking about when you look at the community, I mean, even with Jesus, when he was teaching, you know, he's the best teacher in the world, but he's seen folks was hungry. He stopped and fed them. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say, Pastor, is just to say that we just got to preach and teach and go home. I don't know if that's all of what we got to do. Is there something, Pastor, that we can do collectively that's making a difference in our community?
It's in the story. I just know. When he laid that rich man's gate, he was full of sores. He needed health care. He was hungry. He was hungry for the crumbs that fell off his table that he wouldn't give to him. And then dogs came and licked the sore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the rich folks that are trying to keep health care from the people in the project and the poor people. They won't even give you the crumbs that fall from the table. And so yes, the church has to step in and provide food pantries. They're going to show them how to get health care. They're going to show them how to get education. They need to stand up. Yes, it's a three-legged chair. It takes the government, it takes the church, and then it takes you and me. Yeah, we got to stand right what's right, and the church has a mandate. That was the only thing with ministry stuff that Jesus gave to the church. Clothe the naked, feed the poor, feed the hungry, go to the sick. That's what God told the church to do.
Well, thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for calling in. I really appreciate him sharing that. And what I want to say to you all, we have given the government a bigger piece of the pie, and right now we have to look at how we can get some of that back. But while we're waiting, I have a vocational training school that's nationally accredited, and we are looking to train. You know, I'm not doing it in the church. I'm actually doing it right at the broadcasting where I'm broadcasting this area. And we could use some people to get trained in the field of construction and related. areas, and some of these jobs we got is over $18 an hour. Some of these jobs that we have, but yeah, there's a challenge. You know, when you give leeway to the government to be responsible for this training, there's all kind of loopholes that you got to go through, and people and personalities that you have to overcome. But if the church was in a position like I believe Dr. Dorothy Heron was talking about and Pastor was talking about, if we could get in a position where we're doing our training. So let me say this. When you say souls to the polls, who are you telling the folks to vote for? You know, because if it's a three-legged effort, how will you know if that's a leg for you? That mean, it may be a leg, but it may not be a leg for you. So how do you know that this leg, if you're trying to stand up or sit down properly on this chair, you know, how do you know that this leg is not going to buckle under you once you try to put your weight on it? You know, if we say it's souls to the polls, we need to know who's in our area, and the power of politics is local. So if you don't really know who represents you locally to help you in that time of need and be able to come together to get to that tax base to be able to support your programs and whatnot, then of course you're sitting down, but you're sitting down not necessarily on a wooden leg, but you're sitting down on a leg that is supposed to be there, but it's not really there. And that's just it's in your mind that it's there. But, you know, like I said, again, if you don't even really know who those people are, and the guilty part of where we are as a believer of church body is if I ask you to go do something, if I say go vote, and I don't inform you and educate you on the voting process and how it will work in your favor or not, I think I'm doing a disservice to you by telling you to go vote, and you don't really know what you're doing when you vote. So what do you think about that? Let me ask Nico, what do you think about that? Informing somebody to go do something, but they really don't know what they're doing. How profitable is that?
Well, it's not profitable. I think about my mother, God rest her soul. You know, when we were little kids, you know, she informed us on why it was important to vote, what were going on with the candidates, and taught us to do our research on the candidates. So I was fortunate to come up in a household where that was instilled in myself. But what I wanted to say was regarding what was being discussed today, that Jesus, Yahshua, however y'all want to call him nowadays, is still the prototype. He's the prototype, not Jakes, not all these other preachers. Jesus is the prototype for everything. He dealt with systems, religious systems in his time. We're dealing with our government is undergirded by a religious system. So there's always a system that has to be dealt with, you know, in this country, in this world, from history. So how did he deal with the systems? He got involved. He got even though they didn't like him, they killed him, but he still got involved with the system. We've got to get involved. We can ill afford to keep allowing this cycle of every 4 years, we're going to get a better candidate. We have not gotten a better candidate since I was able to vote, and I'm almost 50. We always get the lesser of the two evils. And I'm talking to the African American community. We always vote for the lesser of the two evils. That's wrong. Why do we settle for that? I'm done because this is going another hour.
No. You make a great point. You make a great point.
We don't even know. We go with the mindset, well, I'm just gonna vote Democrat because that's all I know. No. Get informed. You know, stop this. It's the lesser of two evils mentality. Stop it. That's why we're not getting anywhere. You're going. How do you deal with systemic racism? You've got to change policy with the protest. It's got to go hand in hand. You got to have people in positions that you vote in to be your voice.
And that's key. That's key. Let me go to my little protege here. My little, my son. He ain't little no more. He's huge. But Antoine, I mean, I know you're listening to what's going on, and
Yes, sir.
and the thing about it is, there's real concern with some of the older individuals and seeing how, not necessarily, but the millenniums, because the millenniums are getting older too. Is that also the generation behind the millenniums, like, how they need to be involved, because like you're saying, they're talking and they want to be involved, but I don't think they really know how to be involved because we didn't know how to get involved. What do you say to that?
So one thing for us, I mean, you can go on Instagram and register to vote. You open Instagram every day. I open Instagram every day. I was in the voting line and I skipped everybody because I registered to vote on Instagram. So I think our generation, and it was a lot of old people in the line. I think our generation is informed, but now it's just more about going out and putting our words to action. And that's one thing that is built for the future, something we're building up to do for the future. And whatever plan that is, that starts with voting. That always has started with voting. You can't get anywhere without it. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Nico. I got a couple coming in too. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say real quick. The first time my son voted at 18, I went with him.
Oh, that's
good. Go with your kids. Go with your nephews. Go with your nieces.
And then let me make this point too, because I thought about it when you guys were speaking about the church. So as a Black church, and I want to, because this is Black Power, I want to separate it and bring up this point. As a Black church, why is it that I can go to Presbyterian Hospital that is a branch of a church, or I can go to a Methodist hospital, or I can go to a Catholic church? Why can I not go to a hospital that's ran by Black doctors that is produced from a Black church? Why has that never been created in the whole time that I've been alive? Because I haven't seen it. I'm only 23. So these are things that if we vote correctly, that we can fix for us, because these are big things. You can get a job just by going to school for that specific Catholic church to get into the Catholic hospital. It looks good on your resume, and you go and you build up the right schools and you go to that. Why do the Black people as a community, why do we not have that? Why do we not have options to that money or to those government facilities? Why do we not have that for ourselves?
Like you said,
that we need to get.
Right. We're gonna go ahead and take a caller. Go ahead, caller.
What I wanted to bring to the table is that sometimes a lot of the issues that we have in voting is that we only focus on the executive branch, and we don't put enough emphasis on the legislative branch, and that's the branch that creates the law. The executive branch is the branch that executes the law. So I think that we need to look at voting and all the different executive, legislative, and judicial, and we just also make that a focal point for our young folks, that we just get involved with all the different elections, and it always gets overlooked.
Well, that's certainly true. That's certainly true. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
That was my question.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Yes, I think that is a powerful thing. I think that's a powerful statement because, and I think President Obama said that as well. The problem, Antoine, is when you separate it like that and you start talking about Black folks. We did have an African American president. I think it's the 44th president. Problem was we got him elected, but we didn't think about the other branches like Shauna just mentioned. And so after he got in, what they say, okay, now Barack, handle your business. That's according to what Barack Obama said. And really, the reality of it is, like the column mentioned, there's three legs. There's three legs in politics. And if you're just thinking the executive branch is going to handle everything, and you got judicial and also the legislation branch, and you're not paying attention on how you're voting to get that local official in that represents your interests locally, then obviously, on the state level and whatnot, you're not going to be able to penetrate the federal law. And, they will mandate a lot of changes. So I think, Antoine, you're right. The reason why we're not able to get access to wealth for economic development is because we don't do proper voting, and we don't get the proper candidates local. Because really, the local election is more powerful than the general election. We just put a lot of emphasis on the general election, but we really need to put a whole lot more emphasis on the local and state. That's really what the power is. Because if we get everybody on one accord in every state, then of course the federal has to follow the state itself. You see what I mean?
Yeah. So the judicial branch is something that with voting, you're gonna have to vote for an executive. You're gonna have to vote for an executive because the executive now.
That's right.
Donald Trump selected 3 Supreme Court officials. So
that's right.
And he also has a majority Republican Congress. So Obama didn't have any of that. Obama didn't select any Supreme Court officials. I believe one, which was his own. And then I don't think he had a Democratic Congress that was the same as his. So, I mean, there's a lot of excuses. There's a lot of difference about the 2 different presidents right now. But I think one thing we do have to do is adjust the certain laws that we face, because right now you can legally murder a Black man. You can and that's a bad statement to say. You can legally murder a Black man if you have a vest and a badge and a gun right now. So and I've experienced multiple. I've never been arrested. I have a clean record. I have a good job. I consider myself a patriot and a good citizen, but I've had many interactions with the police where I didn't know if I was going to go home. I've had many interactions where I was out at a gas station and security was called to the front. Like I've lived enough years to see that if I go to jail or if I do get in front of a judge, it might not look so good for me because of this. And voting for judicial, that's something we need to get on, but also informing each other and getting more education about that is something I would probably do myself.
All right, so this is the end of the broadcast, and I want to thank you guys. I know this is a Sunday and you didn't have to come on and do this, but I think we've really had a great show. So I ask that your Facebook family and YouTube watchers continue to watch us because we're going to continue to have great shows. Please keep in mind next week we're going to have the NAACP president on. And I just want to thank my guests. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you guys. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, okay?
Thank you.
All right. God bless. Peace. And so thank you for watching. Again, I want to thank Dr. Dorothy Heron for being with us. Robert Jackson, Pastor Robert Jackson is in the next room, and he's going to help me do some producing of this show. So we just want to thank you for coming on and continue to watch us on YouTube as well as Facebook. And God bless you. Get out there and vote. Vote for the best candidate, and let's keep fighting. All right. Peace.